Well, hi there. My name is Alexis. I'm super happy to have you. This is Whiteboard Mastery, and today I'm going to show you a few photos and a few past exercises that I've done on whiteboards for myself that I think will be interesting to you and will give you a better idea what I mean when I say take whatever is in your head and put it somewhere outside of your head, preferably on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper. This whiteboard, this photo of a whiteboard that you see here, was a brainstorm or was a visualization of what I had on my mind, but I couldn't really say it out loud yet because I didn't really know how the pieces fit together. This was the background, just so you know. This was a background about how I felt, how I had developed in my life. I visualized it as something like love. In this case, excitement, passion came to me easily. And over time, you see this little block here on the top left, a wall started to grow as I grow older. And I realized that a lot of things that hold me back from being passionate about something or from feeling love were these bricks, and this brick wall was for me a visualization of something that was very internally happening. And then on the bottom you see what I call weapons. How do you get over stuff? How do you get over this sort of blockage and this literal wall of frustrations and fear and self-loathing and anxiety and depression, etc. So this took me a few minutes to put together, and it really helped me frame to myself what my path would be and what my tools would be to solve these quite substantial problems. And it really helped me, obviously, in this case, to visualize and give myself a clear path to what I needed to do. And we'll just flip through a few. This is a different one. It's called, you can see it on top. This is a health retrospective, 2017. This was an exercise where I looked back into 2017 and said, what went well around my health? And this is a format called more or less, start, stop, and continue. You can see those sections, and where I would put in, what do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? Start doing, stop doing, continue doing. And this is an exercise that I tend to do every week or so. And this was a yearly sort of looking back on the whole year. And again, I think Whiteboard, having that space was really helpful. I've done these on paper too, but I preferred them on a whiteboard because it gives you just a little bit more space. So I'll walk you through a few more. This was a financial retrospective in the same process of more or less start, stop, and continue. Then this was a retrospective, a weekly retrospective that where I write about what went well. You see the smiley face on top, then what didn't go so well, or what was sort of in the middle, and then to the right you see the frowning face, what didn't at all go so well. And this I do every week, and I use the whiteboard profusely for that. And on the very top right, you see something called AI. These are action items. This is where I, at the end, put together action items, things that I can actually do to overcome whatever was bothering me, or something I can do better next week. What's next here? This is a prioritization matrix. This is a technique that I've learned from a book about intelligence analysis. This is written by a former CIA agent, and it's a technique. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the details, but it's a technique to prioritize options that I had. So in this case, you can see the title says New Skill Prio, and it was about, I had all these new exciting things that I wanted to try out and learn, and I wasn't sure which one to do, and it took me, I drew up a quick grid. I put in the skills that I was interested in, and through a process of maybe half an hour, went through and came up with a result, which, as you can see top right, 26 points for books, and this was in January, and I started writing books and sharing my knowledge, exactly what I'm doing right now. So the process is a little bit involved, but I just want to show you that sometimes you can be very divergent. So the brainstorms and the retrospectives are generally very divergent. So you want to get as much out. And this technique is a convergent technique where you say, I have all these options here. How am I going to come to a decision to figure out what's the one thing that is next? So just to give you a breadth of techniques and ways to use the whiteboard. This was again a ranking here in the middle. You see CBF, Smart Introverts, Geeks and Hackers. This was about a book that I had been writing, and I wasn't sure who would actually benefit the most from this, because I sort of wrote it for myself, and I was like, where would I place that in the market? And this was again with a similar prioritization. Then here, this was really helpful. I had woken up one day and I was really frustrated with how to prioritize again and how to distinguish between what's going on. This is a perfect example. All the things that you see it here, strands of thought, all these things that were in my mind on that Wednesday, I had, like, as you can see, I think 5 different topics that were somewhat important or that had some priority in my life, and I was really confused about. In fact, I only realized as I was doing this that I was trying to discern between hobbies and profession and distractions, and this really helped me. It's a longer story behind it, but as you can see, there's here bottom left, there's a feeling of anxiety. I was expressing how I was feeling about all of this. And then bottom right, you see the short-term relief that I was going to my phone and I was using iPad and everything for short-term relief. But in reality, here top right, you see, a happy person that I realized if I want to be happy and not just short-term relief, I need to be doing other things. Here is a really awesome exercise that I tend to do every few weeks. You see in the middle of this picture is a lot going on. I know there's a boat with a guy on it, and there's an anchor here in the bottom that's stuck. And here on the top left, you see something like this whole text field. It's called the wind, and then here to the right, you see these islands. And this is a way to cognitively work with where am I? Where am I going? These are the islands. What's pushing me forward? That's the wind, and things that I'm doing already that are pushing me forward. And then on the bottom right, you see the anchor. What is holding me back? And this is a fantastic exercise that I highly recommend you doing if you ever wanted to sort of figure out where you are in your life. Then this one is just a collection of a few notes that I took throughout the day. What I want to show you here on the bottom is actually sort of the what I keep on saying is the idea of I visualize for myself, what am I trying to help you with? What am I trying to change in the world? And what I want to, and I couldn't really say it out loud yet, but here you see this on the bottom. You see this guy who's really stressed out. He's worried because he has this whole bubble of thinking around his head, and it's all intertwined, and it's really stressing him out. And then here on the right, you see this person with a clear idea, one idea, and he has all these things sort of mapped out on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard. You see, work, money, play, and there's a before and after. And this is sort of like the initial one where I realized this is what I'm doing for myself, and this is what I want to share with you. Then this was a second iteration of that. Here you have 2 people. You have one guy who's like holding his head because he's got all these things on his mind, and then on the top you see these little critters, anxiety and depression. And what I really want is this guy here on the right who has a whiteboard and who's thinking clearly. to really know what's going on. So this was a second iteration of that. And then just sometimes I do this. I mentioned this before. Sometimes it's as mundane as a simple, to-do list that you keep track of. And I think it's really important to celebrate when you do get stuff done. And you see that the guy on the left who's like, yeah, having a good time, and all these to-dos checked off one after the other. And I forgot what the rest was, but just as a way to express when something is not just going bad and difficult, but also to use this to express yourself, to celebrate and have a good time. So I think this is the last photo, and I hope this was interesting. I wanted to give you sort of an overview of when I talk about thinking out loud and thinking visually and solving problems. I hope these were concrete examples of very different ways to work with a whiteboard. This isn't obviously it's not limited to that. It's just a whiteboard. But these are examples of how I've used the whiteboard recently quite frequently. And as I said, some of these exercises are divergent, where you try to get out as much as you can, and some of them are convergent, where you have a lot of options and you try to find the one option, the most important, the one with the most priority. And then there's things like, as I'm showing here, just checklists, and sometimes it's just a visual, for example, like this here on the right. Before and after, just giving your ideas a story or pictures. And I've done this exactly the same stuff with teams as well. Obviously, I can't share these photos because they're personal to these people. But in general, you can do the same alone as well as with others. So I hope this gave you a few ideas and a few exciting inspirations. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye.